Next on MLR Weekly, Old Glory DC head coach Simon Cross. News, highlights, and predictions with Rugby Morning's John Fitzpatrick and Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Weekly moneymakers from the Rugby Odds, the Rugby Network Play of the Week, and the best rugby recap on the planet.
Rugby Wrap-Ups MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle.
To MLR Weekly as presented by Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thank you for joining us again. And yes, again, we have another great show, including Old Glory DC head coach Simon Cross, Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, the Rugby Odds Picks of the Week, the TRN Play of the Week. We have John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning with his coffee break, and we have the best dang recap in rugby to get us started. In Los Angeles, a depleted RFCLA hosted the no-name New England Free Jacks, who were missing Poland and Conradi, two of the players people actually know. Those absences nor the long flight could stop the defending champs, though, as you don't get to be defending champs by using excuses. They hopped on the Q train in the form of Andrew Quatrin, the hooker, who powered the FJs out of the gate as they cruised by Riflica, who were a walking mash unit. Final score, 34-12. To the snow-capped mountains of Harriman, Utah, traversed Old Glory DC for their Friday Night Lights match versus the hometown Warriors, who seemed to be saving on the electric bill at dusk. But darkness didn't keep Greg Cooper's Warriors from lighting up the tri-zone 3 times before Old Glory shrugged off the long flight. Indeed, Coach Simon Cross's charges improbably came back in the second half, despite the altitude, to get 2 critical losing bonus points via a penalty try and a try at death and 24 tackles from Corey Daniel. Utah holds on to win, though, 31-24. In the Turpentine State, that's North Carolina, folks, the Anthem and NOLA Gold faced off in an Eastern Conference clash that started out well for the hosts. David Still, a large man who has been on this show, looked Jonah Loma-like on the wing, effortlessly flicking off tacklers and powerfully speeding to finish the game's first try. Problem is, the Anthem were finished scoring and picked up 2 yellow cards as New Orleans rattled off 40 unanswered points of their own, with Filimone scoring 2 more tries. Final score 40-5. Big points picked up by the Gold. In Florida, the Sharks were buzzing after their big win last week at NOLA. But the Jackals were right at home in Miami and set the tone early and often, building leads of 26-0 and 33-7. 5 different Dallas players scored tries versus a Miami team that was missing some firepower, re-injury, and suspension. Good to see the excellent Hero Gomez-Vara back for the Jackals. Final score 38-17. At the Cats Meow trademark in Houston, 2 Western powerhouses, the SaberCats and San Diego, came together for a much ballyhooed bout. But the Legion forgot their armor and their cool, getting 3 yellow cards as the Cats ran wild, pouncing on all opportunities, while San Diego's offense looked worse than the 78 Padres output. Huge win for Heinekemeyer and Houston. Final score 33-0. Wow, I know I can use a break, and I bet you can too. That's why we're going to go to Rugby Morning's Coffee Break, our recurring segment with John Fitzpatrick down in Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, America. John, how are you? What do you got?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing okay. How's your voice sounding? Looks like you could use a cough drop break.
It's better than I thought it would be after a very, very fun, great rugby event called the CRC Sevens, the Collegiate Rugby Championship Sevens. Great event at your Maryland Soccerplex, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, men and women. Where the flock were you?
My spirit was there, channeling Aaron Juma, who was just beasting out for Wheeling.
You're just ridiculous, ridiculous. Anyway, what do you got?
Well, Matt, it's 90 degrees on the East Coast. I just came back from a hot run. Speaking of hot runs, how about the Houston SaberCats? They dropped 40 on the San Diego Legion, blanked them. Matt, hot quiz, hot shot. How many times have the San Diego Legion been held scoreless in an MLR game?
Just once, back in '87. Next.
Matt, despite the fact that you don't have any flowing hair, it looks like you might have been a fly half back in your day. So can you recall if you've ever kicked the ball into touch to end the game and win it?
A, I have a mullet growing off my back, and B, I couldn't kick to save my life. I was not a fly half. I devoured fly halves. I was a 6 or a 12 or a 14. Next.
Well, Matt, I bring that up because OGDC, they were on the fortunate end of that when a Utah player kicked the ball into touch. The time had not expired. Ensuing line out, OGDC throws it in. They maul it in. Placement hooker Martin Vaca dotted down, and that was a huge one because it was their 4th try, right? So they got that bonus point. They got within 7 to pick up 2 valuable table points. But Matt, we've got Simon Cross coming on the program a little bit later. What is going on down there in the Potomac?
I don't know. I'm just focused on the martini vodka that you brought up earlier. And next.
What a drunk. What a lovable drunk. But anyway, Matt, finally, I got to bring up New England Free Jacks dynamic fullback Reese McDonald. He scored the try of the week, perhaps the effort of the season, when he chased down his own kick and dove before the RFC LA replica, LA defender, whatever it is, tried to dot it down. But he was taken off afterwards with an apparent shoulder injury. No word on the severity of the injury at this time. We hope he is okay, Matt, but there's no way even in your days you were doing something like that.
I've had reconstructive shoulder surgery on both shoulders, and my intel tells me that while we're taping this show, Reese is going for an MRI, but the shoulder popped back in. He feels pretty good, but they're just seeing if there's structural damage. At the very least, he won't be playing in this upcoming match. All right, on that note, I want to thank Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning. Don't go away, folks. We'll be right back with head coach of Old Glory DC, Simon Cross, right after this.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we're back with the head coach of Old Glory DC, Mr. Simon Cross. Simon, welcome to MLR Weekly.
Hey, thank you, Matt. Apologies, I'm in the car, but no, nice to speak to you. Thank you very much for having me on.
Is that a Sheehy Auto Stores car?
This is a Sheehy Auto Stores car, indeed.
It's easy at Sheehy. Truth be told, I met you this weekend, and I got down to the CRC Sevens, which was at your home stadium, the Maryland Soccerplex, in my Sheehy Auto Stores Volkswagen Taos.
Well, they're going comfort and style.
There you go. It's this somehow you and I are in some club now together because of this, right? I mean, it's like, do we do a secret handshake?
Well, I hope so next time we see you. But I'll tell you what, how good was the CRCs, to be fair? They were, it was an outstanding event.
It was great. It was great. And they continue to just improve it each year. This was the second year in a row down in the Maryland Soccerplex. And I mean, that's a home. That's a perfect place for that environment. I mean, for that event. You had the trip to Utah. It's not an easy place to play. You've got the travel. You've got the altitude. I asked everybody from overseas when they first come to the MLR what surprises them the most. And it's got, the travel is a daunting thing. I mean, especially if you're coming from England or you're coming from one of the setups. And I know you played for Edinburgh, correct?
I did, yeah. I'll be honest, the travel is less difficult than I expected, if I'm honest. So having come from the URC now, where you've got the South African teams in the competition, there's a lot of travel around the URC, and it's pretty tough. So I think it's affected the group less than I expected. I think we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot at the weekend around our unforced errors. And that is a kind of a key theme at the moment with us. We're very, very close to being a very good side. Well, we've got to control what we can control at the moment, and I don't feel we're doing that.
Well, I want to get back to the travel part of this, because I went over this with Coachy, the head coach of Miami, last week. What class are you flying when you're in the URC? Right, and I know you're probably flying coach with the MLR.
It's the same with the URC. It's the same. It's
really?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's no difference at all. You are in cattle class and you're getting on with it. It's just
really,
it's no difference. It's which is why, I think it's affected me less than I kind of thought it would be. Or it's I don't see it as a huge issue, if I'm honest. We just got to have the mindset of get in, get the job done, and get out.
Well, you did get out of Utah with 2 points, and points matter. And I know you wanted the W, but you did make it a respectable match, and you got 2 key points to be in the table at the end of the season in this very, very tight Eastern Conference race. So did you take some satisfaction out of that?
I think there's an element of satisfaction, but at the same time, there was some frustration where I thought Utah played really well, but I thought we allowed them to play pretty well in that first half. We didn't really invade their space. We lost a number of collisions, both sides of the ball, and we just allowed them to play their game. I thought the second half was much better, and I'm delighted that we were able to kind of get something out of the game. But it was kind of the same story from the week before with Houston. Houston are a quality side. They showed that against San Diego. But at the same time, that second half against Houston, we kind of dominated it. And it was only that real sort of first half errors and unforced errors, really, that are starting to, tail. And, we shoot ourselves in the foot too many times at the moment.
Sure. Well, the other side of this, too, is, talking about the travel thing. And you shed some light, made this program worthwhile just on this news that the URC is flying coach, because that screams cheapy to me, because they got a ton more money than you guys have over here in terms of your salary cap structure and the amount of money that owners are paying out of their pocket, like you just mentioned. And there's a high attrition rate, and there's not that depth that you might have overseas. All right, you're back home against Miami, an Eastern Conference foe. They've had the ups and downs. They're coming off a loss last week. What is the one thing that you worry about against Miami, without tipping your playbook, of course?
Miami are a fast-paced team. They've got Marcus Young, that we know very well from last year. If the game goes fast and loose, Miami thrive on fast and loose. We've got to find a way of just controlling the tempo of the game and getting our game on the field. We've got a great set piece. I mean, the work that Jack Ascaro and Quinton Newcomer on the loose heads have done. We've got a couple of quality tight heads in Calixto Martinez and Tyler Rowlands, and now with Stevie Longwell coming back and starting to grow that group and lead on the sort of the scrum coaching side of things. We've got a great set piece. Rob Harley has done an unbelievable job with our line out and our drive. We've got a very good tight game. We've also got the ability to rip people apart with the back line that we have.
So going forward, would not making the playoffs be an ultimate disaster for you? How do you view success on the season, I should ask?
So Chris and Paul have been very clear in their goals for us, is that we are, they want to win with Americans, and we want to be, heavily weighted towards, growing Americans and trying to win with Americans. We've added a group of international players to the fold, which is going to help develop those guys. And I think this year one is all about just trying to, a winning season is the thing that we're trying to do, is trying to create. And if we get a winning season, the chances are we'll qualify for the playoffs. So that's our goal, really, is to have Old Glory's first ever winning season, I suppose.
And if you're angry, do you ever hear players saying, "Hey, you don't want to see Simon Cross"?
There you go, Matt. That's why they pay you the big bucks.
Just writes itself, Coach. It just writes itself. Well, I got to tell you something. Either way, folks, if you're down in that area or you can get there by car, you got to go down and watch one of their games. This complex is spectacular. It's perfect for rugby in the United States. It's right outside D.C., so you got Washington, D.C. as a destination So you can combine rugby and you can combine going to see some sightseeing. It's a great place, and I think you guys are on the front foot. All right. Well, thank you, Simon. Thanks for taking the time out. Someday I'll come down there and we'll race our Sheehy Auto Stores vehicles side by side. But in the meantime, you focus on the rugby, and I'll get down there and watch a match with everybody else that you get down there.
Good man. Thank you, Matt.
And now for the Major League Rugby Play of the Week, brought to you by the Rugby Network. In the 44th minute, New England's Reece McDonald put on a masterclass in hustle, diving to pounce on a ball cavalierly handled by Los Angeles. That's how to do it, kids. In the 80th minute, and Utah shorthanded with a yellow card, Old Glory had one of those potential season-saving tries. This one by number 16, Martin Martini Vaca, securing 2 bonus points for DC despite losing. In the 12th minute in Houston, Sabercats number 8, Ronan Murphy, scored under the posts for an automatic 7 points. That would be all the points Houston's defense would need in a statement-making whitewashing of the San Diego Legion. And the Rugby Network Major League Rugby Play of the Week is Old Glory's try at death, showing that never-say-die commitment that Reece McDonald showed for New England, just on a team effort level. Here's your TRO, the Rugby Odds MLR Picks of the Week via WWE Hall of Famer turned rugby advocate and excellent handicapper John Bradshaw Layfield and King Gift A. Bailu, the Yogi Berra of rugby.
Miami has not really beaten anybody. Nalo is having problems when they beat them. They beat Anthem, who everybody has beaten. I worry about not Miami without the 2 big guys. Old Glory's getting players back. Old Glory at home to beat Miami.
Man, San Diego, Dallas. Look for San Diego to cover the spread, -3.5, but -3. But Dallas has been there. It's gonna keep it close.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street. This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? Fans, you can tune into every match live on Flow Rugby. How do we know that? Because we're on there all the time. And we're back, and once again, we're welcoming in Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News. Bryan, welcome back to MLR Weekly.
Good to be here, and not sure we had a lot of surprise results per se, but some of the score lines a little bit eye-opening from the weekend. I think we'd have to say that.
That's for sure. But before we go anywhere or do anything, Bryan, what's with the hats?
Well, there was, speaking of those results, I think, I'm not sure anybody saw, 33-0 coming from Houston over San Diego. So anytime you put that kind of a performance against a team like that, I think you've got to get a little bit of recognition.
Well, one of us did predict that Houston would win this match and cover the spread. And I'll give you 2 guesses who that was. Thank you. What else? What are some of your observations from the weekend, Bryan?
Well, we wondered what kind of Utah team would show up, and we kind of saw both of them, didn't we? The first half, they looked just dominant, and then the second half, they just kind of slipped away. And got to give credit to DC for fighting back to get a couple bonus points in that one. Steve Longwell earning them a penalty try straight away, so great to see him back in Old Glory colors. Anthem, again, they had a week off, but the defense is still an issue. They're giving away too many soft tries, and I just hope some of these younger guys can step it up in the second half of the season. Dallas, I'd have to say, maybe the most impressive Jackals performance that we've seen so far. I mean, it was pretty complete. Played really well in this lovely stadium down in Miami. Again, we've mentioned Houston, and an efficient win, I would call New England, getting the win over Los Angeles on a nice sunny day there. And, you know, have to mention Reese McDonald. Hopefully that shoulder of his is okay, waiting to hear the results, but certainly wish the best for him.
Yeah, you know, you said efficient win for New England, but they flew across the country. I mean, that's a big deal, right? That's a long flight, and it doesn't seem to faze them. They're the one team that just, you know, they might have a hiccup here and there. They might have a bad game. They might, you know, human error. But they're a very strong team, a very deep team. The Reese McDonald injury, that's a significant one. But if any team can weather that with their depth, it's this team. You know, maybe they've got moving parts in that back line, and they've got some people coming back that they've been working in. All right, what else?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was neat to see. Certainly not the situation, the red card to Tiana Erasmus. You know, I wasn't super hot on that. Looked a little harsh to me, but Seth Smith gets 40 minutes out there, scores a try for Houston, so that's great to see. You know, these young American players. I mean, I can't wait to see this under-20 side that the Americans.
How do they celebrate that with the kid that's underage?
That's
well, you know, they can't make him, you know, do an upside down chug. You know, so does he clean the locker room? I don't know. Bryan, that's all in the past. Let's look ahead. We've got our TRO, the rugby odds spreads from our friends over there. Let's look at the games and get what you think. Seattle in Starfire, -24 over the Anthem, who had a rough week last week versus NOLA.
Yeah, I expected more out of Anthem. Didn't see it against NOLA. Seattle's a much better team and much tougher at home. You know, maybe Seattle runs out all their subs, and maybe that's the only chance to not cover that spread. So I'll go with the Seawolves to do that, I think.
The next one, Bryan, you got Old Glory at home versus Miami. Old Glory very fortunate to get those 2 bonus points in that loss versus Utah. Miami, after their big win, you thought they were going to have a better performance. They didn't. So now this is kind of like that pick'em -3 for the home team game. And you just heard Simon Cross, the head coach of Old Glory. What's your take on this one?
Well, I didn't see Ronaldo Bussi getting a 6-week suspension, so that was definitely a major blow to the Sharks. And then they lost Manuel Ardal in the first half, you know, in that last game. So, you know, is he going to play in this one? Those are pretty much the 2 most important players. So, and then the flip side, DC's getting Jamison Fatnana Schultz, their captain back, who they've missed dearly over the last 5 weeks. So I think that's a major boost for them. I think they cover that spread pretty handily and get a solid win at home over Miami.
Utah, the Mountain People in Harriman, welcoming in the SaberCats. SaberCats coming off that huge win. SaberCats are the road favorites, and it's -6.
I think Utah is going to be tough at home, but yeah, I mean, they just slipped away in that second half, you know, against DC. Houston's a much stronger side. They look a little bit angry, almost to prove a point against San Diego. I mean, what a scoreline. So I think you got to go with the Cats in this one. They look pretty determined right now.
I mean, when does game player management come into play?
Well, they've been kind of rotating guys in. I mean, they've had Sam Hill has only played like 3 games. Remember, they've been rotating that midfield with, you know, Lourdes van der Skyff. We've only seen him a couple times out there. Jay Renton, this New Zealand under-20 scrum half, we haven't seen him at all yet. I think he's just arriving. You know, they've got some players in there. So, you know, I think they're a little bit, you know, light, maybe a tight head prop with Max Van Dyke out. But I think they've got strong depth pretty much everywhere. So I wouldn't be too worried. I think Houston can rest a few guys and still come out on top.
Okay, well, some teams don't have that luxury. New England is one of those teams that does have that luxury. -7 versus Chicago. This is an interesting match for Chicago.
It is, and this is kind of, you know, show us what you're made of, Chicago. You had a pretty ropey first half this season. Pulled it together kind of in the last, 3-4 weeks a little bit. So, but this is a much better team that they're going to be playing. And going into New England, the Free Jacks definitely, after that kind of embarrassing performance in the last home game, I think are going to pull up their socks a little bit in this one. So I'm expecting the Free Jacks to come through this one. I think it'll be a good game, but this is a real test. I like to see Chicago put up a real fight in this one. I like to see a tight match. Maybe this is an eye towards the Eastern Conference Final later on, but we'll see. But I'll take New England at home.
Yeah, that's a good bet. And ironically, they have had some of their lesser matches at home. It's like they step up on the road. So, maybe this is a banana peel match for them. I don't think so, but, it could be. Then you've got the final match of the weekend, San Diego hosting Dallas, and San Diego coming off that annihilation of them by Houston, whereas Dallas had a big win and got to 500. But again, this is like, okay, let's give 3 points to the home team because Dallas could very easily win this match.
San Diego, they got two kind of matches now that they want to, kind of avenge their first ever loss at Snapdragon and this just horrific beating they took in Houston. So they have a lot to play for. They got a few bodies out. Is Blair Cowan going to play in this one? Do you think he'll want to be in there? I'm not sure, the extent of what his damage was. A few other guys, and Dallas, meanwhile, it's just a storming performance. And on the road too in Miami. So that was really impressive for me. I agree. This is so different from the last time we saw Dallas go to San Diego. I think Dallas can win this. I like it. I'm going to go with that. I think they're the underdogs. I think you have to still give San Diego the favorites tag at home, but I like Dallas to pip this one. I think it'll be a close game. We'll take the Jackals by like 5. I'm really excited to see this one. I think this is the pick of the weekend.
Is this a must win for San Diego?
I don't think so. I think you look just because, the nature of the playoffs this year where we have 4 teams in each conference, there's a little bit of leeway there. You can
like the NHL.
Yeah, it's a little bit soft, I think, on teams. So I think they can afford to lose this one. If that happens, I think this is one they want to win. And psychologically, this is one they'll circle and say, we've got to make a statement here. But, same with Dallas. If they can get this, they're over 500. And that's a great way to start the second half of the season. So, this is going to be a cracker. I got to go with the Jackals.
Yeah, I think I am too. And I don't mind that 4 teams are in the playoffs from each conference because with this league, with the limited amount of resources, the salary caps, the attrition, your team still has a shot. And, you can get players back and maybe rattle off a couple of wins, get some points on that table and squeak into the playoffs. And I think that's good. I think that's fun. Not the NHL. On that note, I want to thank Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, head coach Simon Cross of Old Glory, D.C., and thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other programs, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, sign up for our weekly newsletter, tell your friends about us, and please join our American Red Cross Blood Donor Team.